What's good, y'all? The NBA season is flying by, and it's crazy to think that we're already so close to the All-Star break. It seems like just yesterday we were at opening day, and then now we're all the way over here, almost halfway through the season. I could personally attest to this because I didn't realize that they were already dropping the starters for the All-Star game. I usually try to put out this video before that, so just all integrity is there. But since I didn't realize that, obviously the video wasn't out, I still did put out a tweet saying my All-Star starters to make sure you guys didn't think I was copying or anything. So that's another reason to make sure you follow me on Twitter. But in this video, we're going over my entire NBA 2026 All-Star ballot. Just some housekeeping things before we get into the actual ballot. Of course, in case you guys don't know, they did change the format of the All-Star game this year. There's going to be 3 teams of 8. There still will be 12 All-Stars selected from each conference, but it does not matter position. It is just the 12 guys. Could be 12 guards, could be 12 centers, could be a mixture. Doesn't matter. And then also the teams are being broken up into 3 different teams of 8. One of them being the international team of all internationally born players. And then they haven't announced how they're splitting up the other 2 groups. But yeah, just so you guys are aware. And also, I don't want this video to be super long, so I am going to be bringing up these All-Stars in groups. And then some guys will get more screen time, others won't. Obviously, that's just how things work out. If you're interested in what I think about your favorite player, your favorite team, whatever it is, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I drop videos all the time talking about all of the different teams. But let's just jump right into it and talk about the Eastern Conference starters. That's the group I'm going to start off with. Like I said, they have been announced at the time of recording this video, but I put out my ballot, and funny enough, it was the exact same of the real starters. Of course, if you don't know that, it is Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And honestly, I feel like all 5 of these guys are having terrific seasons. There's really no way to take it away from them. I feel like they're pretty much the concrete, solidified top 5 in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is the best player in the Eastern Conference. Even though the Bucks themselves are not doing good, that's not because of Giannis. Giannis is still putting up crazy stat lines night in and night out. Damn near the only reason this team isn't at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. He definitely deserves this. Then you have other guys like Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey who are having career years this year. Jaylen Brown, I was not expecting anywhere near this level of production, but he has been the sole reason why the Celtics are super high. Him running the ship there without Jason Tatum stepping up to be that 1A guy. He is proving that he is able to do that, which again, really surprised me. Shout out to Jaylen Brown. He has been terrific this year. And then similar things could be said about Tyrese Maxey. I wasn't too high on the Sixers coming into the year, but because of the play of Tyrese Maxey, he's one of the top scorers in the NBA, has completely taken that superstar jump. And I even had a video earlier in the year saying how I think the Sixers should pivot from focusing on Joel Embiid to focusing on Tyrese Maxey. And it seems like they are pretty much doing that mid-season. They made that decision, and they are fully going into the Tyrese Maxey era. So I really love that he can get some love and, be the starter here. And then, of course, rounding out the starters, we have the top 2 point guards in the Eastern Conference, Cade Cunningham and Jalen Brunson. Obviously, the Pistons being a top of the Eastern Conference, that was a big surprise since we're talking about surprises. And like I said, with Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown, one of the biggest reasons why the Pistons are so surprising and at this high level is because of Cade Cunningham and his ability to run their offense. Obviously, they have great defenders and their defense is really where they lay their hats on, but the offensive part of it, it's pretty much just Cade Cunningham out there by himself creating the entire offense. He's one of the better playmakers, scorers, got the size. There's not much Cade can't really do. And then the last starter, we have my hometown guy, Jalen Brunson. Even though the Knicks are on a skid right now, to say the least, Jalen Brunson has pretty much been one of the only consistent players from the start of the year to this point in the year for the Knicks. Obviously as their main offensive engine, their main scorer, one of the best scorers in the league. Jalen Brunson definitely deserves this All-Star starter nod. Now moving on to the reserves in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to give the first 5 before giving the 2 wild card, even though now the positions aren't really a thing. The wild cards don't matter as much. Regardless though, the next 5 All-Stars that I have out the Eastern Conference, I have Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, Michael Porter Jr., and Pascal Siakam. First, I want to start by talking about Donovan Mitchell because he, out of this group of guys, probably had the best case to be a starter. Like I said, I do think that the 5 starters are the clear-cut guys. Donovan Mitchell was the 6th guy, though, like the clear-cut 6th guy, if that means anything to you. He was just outside of the cut. Although the Cavs themselves haven't looked good as a team so far this year compared to last, Donovan Mitchell isn't really, I don't want to say a part of that because obviously everyone deserves some type of blame, but he has been pretty much their most consistent guy. He hasn't really dealt with injuries, so he's in the lineup, and obviously what he brings as a scorer and a ball handler, not a lot of people can really replicate that. So I did want to give him his respect and his nod. He was really close to being an all-star starter. Next up, we have the 2 former teammates making this all-star team, Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. Both of these guys I want to talk about in one, kind of because one, I think it's funny that they're former teammates, but also both of these guys are so versatile in what they bring to the game that it's not just scoring, it's not just rebounding, it's not just defense, it's not just playmaking, it's literally all of that. Both of these guys have arguments to be the best playmaker, rebounder, defender, and scorer on their roster right now, which is crazy to say. Usually, when you hear all of that, you think of LeBron James or Jokic, Giannis, whatever, these super top tier guys. These guys aren't on that level, but it just goes to show you how much they help their team and how much their production really does for their team. And then rounding out this group, we have 2 first-time All-Stars in Jalen Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. First, I'll talk about Jalen Johnson, and I know as of recent, pretty much since they traded Trae Young, he's been kind of cooling down a little bit. He had a really good game on Martin Luther King Day versus the Bucks, so shout out to him for that. Obviously, the Hawks traded away Trae Young knowing that they can rely on this guy, Jalen Johnson, who's putting up near triple-doubles every single night. In transition, he's a blur. You cannot stop him. And even in the half court, he is looking more fluid as time goes on. So I really am excited that the Hawks are kind of pivoting towards him. I think it should be really cool to see him grow next year, the year after that, and see how he builds upon this first All-Star appearance. And then Michael Porter Jr., I think he's an interesting case because a lot of people didn't really expect this from him, myself included. I expected him to come to the Nets, get a little bit more increase in production, maybe have the efficiencies drop a little bit just because, he is one of the more talented players on Brooklyn, obviously, so he would have the opportunity. I didn't think he would look this good with the opportunity, though. He definitely looks like an all-star level player. Shooting the 3-ball has been out of this world. I know we all know him as a 3-point shooter, but the shots that he's taking are so difficult, and he's still such an efficient scorer. I'm really happy that MPJ has been able to get all of this momentum building. I don't know if he's going to end the season as a Brooklyn Net or if he's going to get traded. However it works out, it is pretty cool to see him break out. And then the last 2 Eastern Conference wildcard All-Stars, I have Jalen Duren and Norman Powell. Jalen Duren, I definitely wanted to include here because, like I mentioned with Cade Cunningham, the Pistons being on the top of the Eastern Conference, I don't think you could have gotten a single person that wasn't a Pistons fan to predict that before the season started. And obviously, all of that doesn't come just from Cade Cunningham. When I was talking about him, I was saying how he is pretty much their sole ball handler and creator and everything. And that is all true. His second-hand man, though, definitely is Jalen Duren here, and he has looked a lot more fluid and confident on the basketball court, if you want to say that. Not only offensively, where we've seen him take these jumps and be a solid roller, can even create his own shot sometimes, and not as like a dribble type of guy, but out of the post, just put his shoulder into someone. He's one of the stronger centers in the NBA, and you could see that on a night-to-night basis. But his rebounding is there, his defense has improved, and all around he has been, again, with Cade Cunningham, one of the more important pieces to this Detroit Pistons team. Then for the last spot, we have Norman Powell here, and I was going back and forth. It was really difficult to choose Norman Powell or Bam Adebayo. I ended up going with Norman Powell just because his shooting has been unreal, and there's some times where it looks like he is almost the only offensive threat really on the Miami Heat. And I say that kind of, tongue-in-cheek a little bit because obviously they have other good players like Bam that I was mentioning, or Davion Mitchell. Even if it's not for him looking for his shot, he's aggressive setting up the offense. But Norman Powell as a scorer, he is by far their most lethal scorer, their most lethal shooter. And I know, again, the Miami Heat are kind of built upon their defense. Offensively, though, Norman Powell is the guy that drives them. And then before we move on to the Western Conference, I did have some honorable mentions that I wanted to talk about. First off, I had Franz Wagner. If he was healthy or played a little bit more games, I would say he's a lock to make the All-Star team. Since he's been out for a while, though, I don't know if they'll put him on, then just take him right off as an injury reserve to just have him get the accolade. I don't know how it'll work, but he just barely missed my ballot. Of course, I was just talking about Bam Adebayo, too. He was just off the list. And then the final two honorable mentions, I had Josh Giddey and LaMelo Ball. Now moving on to the Western Conference, of course, we're going to start with the starters as well. I wasn't as spot on as I was with the Eastern Conference. I didn't get it exact as the real starters, but my personal starters for the Western Conference was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, and Anthony Edwards. Of course, as you guys all know, that is the starting five, except for instead of Anthony Edwards, Stephen Curry got selected as the starter. I'm not terribly mad at it, but I definitely think that Anthony Edwards should have been the lock to make the starters. I think that Anthony Edwards has been one of the best players in the entire NBA this season. It's insane that every single year, consistently, Anthony Edwards gets better and better and better. He still is athletic as hell and can get to the rim and finish over you, through you, around you, whatever. The pull-up three is still there from last year. He's been able to add the pull-up mid-range a little bit as well. His isolation numbers are through the roofs. And then this year, the real cherry on top that he's added to his game, he has become by far the clutchest player in the NBA. When you look at the numbers, every time it comes down to clutch time, Anthony Edwards is by far the most efficient player. And I think that really says something, especially in the super tight Western Conference. A lot of times, the games come down to the wire, and having just a certified killer on your roster like Anthony Edwards, super useful. Obviously, he brings it defensively as well. I can go on and on about Ant. I definitely think he deserved the All-Star starter, but, we're fine with Steph Curry. We could quickly go through the rest of the starters because I don't really think I need to explain too much to you guys about them, but we have the reigning Finals MVP and regular season MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as a starter. I'm pretty sure that was a lock. Then we have Luka Doncic, and I know some people are saying he doesn't look like the same Luka, but he's still giving us the same Luka production. That three ball isn't falling as good as it has in the past, but I still believe in Luka Doncic and the Lakers. Well, maybe not the Lakers part, but I still believe in Luka Doncic, though, and I definitely think he deserves the nod as a starter. Victor Wembanyama, I think I've said plenty on this channel about Victor Wembanyama already, but the best defender in the world, one of the better offensive players at 7'5". Crazy. He definitely deserves it. And then, of course, we have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. I am interested to see if they count him as a injury reserve or if he will actually play. I know he's supposed to come back somewhat soon. I don't think he's rushing to get back to the All-Star game, though, so expect him to maybe get out, and then maybe Anthony Edwards starts in the real game, too. Who knows? But now moving on to the Western Conference reserves. Of course, I do have Stephen Curry as a reserve. Like I mentioned, he's the real starter. In my ballot, though, he is a reserve. Alongside him, we have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, and Kawhi Leonard. So if I couldn't pick Anthony Edwards, I probably would have went with either Steph Curry or Kevin Durant to be that fifth starter. I'll start with Steph Curry since he is the real starter. Golden State has been pretty up and down, to say the least. They have not been the best watch, in my opinion. But Steph Curry, he is a great watch. He is one of the sole reasons I still watch Warriors games, honestly. Especially now with Jimmy Butler going down with injury. Prayers up to Jimmy. Really sucks to see that. But especially now, just Steph Curry is going to have an even bigger offensive load than what he already had, which is crazy because there is times where the Warriors offense is lost without Steph Curry. Then he comes onto the court and it's like magic. Things change. Even if he's not making shots, just the threat of him being on the court and potentially in a play, it changes how defenses work. Then we have Kevin Durant, who is still one of the best scorers in the league. He just passed Dirk Nowitzki for 6th all-time in scoring. Crazy to think that we have two top 6, I almost said top 5, he's not there yet, but we have 2 top 6 scorers of all time still currently in the NBA at once. Like, that kind of blows my mind. Appreciate greatness while we still can, guys. But yeah, Kevin Durant has not lost a step yet. Still one of the elite scorers the game has ever seen, and he really is helping the Houston Rockets have some consistent offense, because especially since Fred VanVleet went down, things can get a little rough on the offensive end, but at the end of the day, they can kind of just dump the ball to KD, let him cook a little bit, and he will get a decent look. Then we have Devin Booker leading his Phoenix Suns to a potential playoff spot. This is another one of the bigger surprises of the season, in my opinion. I just didn't really think that the Phoenix Suns were going to be able to keep up with a lot of the high talent of the Western Conference. A big part of that is Devin Booker. Want to give quick shout outs to Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin, a few other guys out there that really, pulling their own weight. But Devin Booker, at the end of the day, is their main scorer, their main ball handler. He's been great as an assist guy, too. You guys know I love me some D-Book. I'm wearing him on the sweatshirt right here. I'm really happy that I was able to get him into this All-Star team. And despite the really bad start to the Clippers season, Kawhi Leonard did make my ballot. A big part of that is because they were able to not just turn it around, but turn it around at such an elite level, going like 10-2 or 11-2, whatever it is. And a big part of that is Kawhi Leonard. He had some really big scoring nights in that stretch. Hopefully he's able to just stay healthy and the Clippers can keep building on this. Right now, I think they're sitting at the 10th seed, so they have a little bit more to climb up, but they're doing good. Shout out to Kawhi. And then we have the first-time All-Star Jamal Murray. After being called a All-Star caliber player for 5 seasons now at this point, Jamal Murray finally will crack the All-Star team. And I think a big part of that is because Nikola Jokic went down. I will say I did have Jamal Murray on my All-Star ballot a few months ago before Jokic got hurt, but he still is on here and is solidified as a lock on here, in my opinion, because of the level of play he did when Jokic was out. Not just him, obviously Peyton Watson stepped up, and you had other guys like Spencer Jones and, a bunch of different, Najee Marshall, Jalen Pickett. Sorry, these guys just kept popping into my head. But the main leader of that was Jamal Murray, and he is having a career year, scoring, shooting-wise, efficiency-wise. His playmaking is still there, and he has just been a terrific player this year. I'm so happy he finally makes the All-Star team. I know I said I wanted this video to not be too long, but here we are. I do think it's going to be a decently long video. Our final 2 wild cards for the Western Conference All-Star ballot. The first guy I have is Chet Holmgren. I really am happy that Chet has been able to stay healthy this season after what we saw from him last year. But the fact that he's been able to consistently be in the lineup alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and help this Thunder team be one of the top teams in the conference, one of the best defenses in the league, a lot of that falls back onto Chet Holmgren and his ability to not only be the defensive anchor, but also be the second option on most nights, because J-Dub has been out of the lineup, and he is really just having to take on a lot more of that. He's super efficient finishing at the rim in the pick and roll, getting to the mid-range, 3-point shot, pretty much anything offensively Chet Holmgren has excelled at this year. Then you add that along with the defense that has always been there since entering the league with Chet, and you get an all-star level player. And then the last wild card reserve that I have here, I left it for last because I wanted to just keep you guys on your toes a little bit. I do have LeBron James as a all-star reserve, or an all-star wild card technically. I've mentioned it a little bit before, especially when I made my few months ago All-Star ballot. If LeBron James' name was Charles Smith and he was some random guy, and you just, you take away the name, the legacy, the face of LeBron, just replace his exact play with some random guy, probably wouldn't make the All-Star team. I would say that that guy, Charles Smith, is having a good season, but not a All-Star caliber season. So if LeBron was named Charles Smith, the real guy that probably would get this would be Deni Avdija. But being that his name is not Charles Smith, and it is LeBron James, and he is the greatest player to ever touch a basketball, and he is the face of the franchise, and is in year 23, giving still good production at age 41. All of that context involved, I'm going to give LeBron James the All-Star nod. If it's solely based on exclusively basketball and exclusively this season, I'll be honest, yes, it probably should go to Deni or Şengün or Lauri Markkanen, but that's not the case. We've seen them do it for way worse players, and no disrespect to those guys, but like Dirk and D-Wade on their last years, they weren't all-star caliber players, but when you look on their basketball reference, it says all-star. LeBron James deserves that. If anyone deserves it, it's LeBron James. So that is my complete all-star ballot. Like I mentioned a little bit right then, the honorable mentions for the Western Conference, I do have Deni Avdija, I do have Alperen Şengün, and I do have Lauri Markkanen. If Nikola Jokic is not playing, I assume they'll slot Denny Avdia right back up there. If by any chance LeBron James does not make it, Şengün will probably get that last spot. But I do have both of those guys right barely on the outside because of these other situations. And just because they did change the format, I guess I'll read off my international team based on my All-Stars. So the starters for the international team will be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Wembanyama, and Nikola Jokic. Insane. That's probably the 5 best players in the league, maybe. Crazy. Outside of that, though, they also have 3 reserves, and that's going to be Pascal Siakam, Jamal Murray, and then Norman Powell. And you might be questioning, Norman Powell, he's American. Yes, but also there's no other international All-Stars on my ballot. I only had 7 out of the 8. The NBA has already mentioned that they'll try to comb through different ways to make it so international players are on the international team. Norman Powell was born in America, but also he has already said that he wants to play for Team Jamaica on their national team. So I am going to count him as a Jamaican representative, and he will be in the international team on my All-Star ballot. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below what you think about my All-Star ballot. Let me know who I missed, who I snubbed, who deserved it, who didn't. And also, do you think LeBron James deserves to be an All-Star this year? I'm very curious to hear what you guys want to say. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch ya.